ago, Australia had never heard of the Knack, but in their homeland America, the Knack were rocketing towards a chart-busting record for their debut album, Get the Knack. In just 7 weeks, this album sold 1 million copies, placing them firmly in the #1 position across America. And judging from this week's chart reaction here, the same thing's going to happen in Australia. Doug Feiger's got a quote: "If you don't know what diddy means, don't mess with it." Prescott Niles, Berton Averre, Bruce Gary and Doug Feiger know what it means, and they're in Australia to prove it. So here's Molly with the Knack.
Well, hold on, it is not often that we can introduce the #1 group in America, have them on the stage. Hold on. Oh, please. Prescott, will you take up and stand up and take a bow? This is Prescott. And Berton. Hello. Bruce. And Doug.
Oh,
well, now that we've got that all over and done with,
yes.
And being serious for a moment, one could say that you're an overnight success, and with all this scribe here, like, I mean, that's the 1 week's of press, etc., etc., and this one here, Get the Knack, #1 album, and I believe now the #1 single with my Sharona.
That's right.
Well, then people could say it's an overnight success. But
but I would.
Looking back and knowing that you've written songs for what, about 5, 6, 7 years now, is it?
Probably longer.
Yeah.
Together, me and Berton have written songs for about 5 years.
Yeah. And people sort of, I know you get upset about, say, people say, well, you know, they must have cashed in on this thing, or wrote the songs in a day, etc., etc. But in fact, some of the songs on the album were written back around about 5
Yeah, Good Girls Don't was written about 6 years ago.
Right.
That's What the Little Girls Do is about 4.5 years old.
My Sharona, when did you write that?
After I met Sharona.
Yeah? I see, right, well, I won't go to that.
Me and Berton wrote that one. He actually had the rhythm for a long time, and we didn't know what to do with it, and then I met this girl.
Now listen, going into the album itself, Bruce, into the album itself, and Mike Chapman, who's had amazing success, I believe you recorded the album in 2 weeks, flat.
That's right.
Yeah, well, a little less than that, actually. 9 days recording, 2 days mixing.
Yeah.
A couple of days screwing around.
2 days.
Right.
2 days with his wife.
but I sort of gather the fact of, like, with the Eagles and like Fleetwood Mac spending like months and months in the studios, how come only 2 weeks?
Well, rock and roll, if you're a rock and roll band and you play live, you should get it
We
down.
don't have Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, really.
We'd probably
that would
stretch it out.
All right.
That would distract us, yeah.
Now listen, going into the fact that it is the #1 album, the #1 single, I mean, does it worry you now, the pressure that's put on you?
Nah.
No?
Nah. There's no pressure. It's just rock and roll. It's only rock and roll.
Now listen,
I
you made a very interesting remark yesterday about music itself, about how critics tend to put labels on music, which you hate, I believe. And you were talking about music as sort of like the basically roles in it. Can you just sort of explain that again? Because it was very interesting to hear you say this.
Well, it was, the comments were, some people say that there's an audience hierarchy, you know, and it's sort of absurd, sort of like the Bay City Rollers audience is a lower audience than, say, an Elvis Costello audience, and that's absurd. It's all rock and roll, and we want to get everybody.
Yeah.
We want everybody to get the Knack.
But you're more or less saying also that as a songwriter and as the success you've got at the moment, that you'll listen to anyone and you can enjoy music.
That's
for what
right.
It is.
As long as it's good. As long as the people that are doing it believe in it.
That's right.
Well, I've got to say it without any hype whatsoever, even though with all the scribe and hype, that you are one of the freshest bands. On this record alone, I think it's a sensational record.
Yeah, it's pretty fresh.
Now, I noticed that you two write most of the songs, but you also have got what I gather now as a tribute, Heartbeat, which is the Buddy Holly performance of the Norman Petty song. You're going to do one on each album, I believe, a tribute to certain people.
Well, sometimes if we feel like it, you know.
The song that fits us primarily. It's not.
Heartbeat's going to be a hit, you know. Your version of that's pretty good. I shouldn't say it because of it. No, I think it will be though.
I hope so.
We'd rather it's one that we wrote.
Actually, I saw you perform last night, and you look. I mean, not only do you look as if you're having a ball on stage, but
no, that was after the show.
No, you look as if you're having a ball on stage as well. You obviously sort of really do enjoy the music that you're doing.
Yeah, we wouldn't do it if we didn't dig it. Yeah. It's not worth doing.
No. Yeah. Anybody who's ever gotten on a stage and played rock and roll for people know it's really fun. I can't believe people who do it and don't like it.
Now, just briefly, again, I was talking to Roger before about images. Your image is sort of very sort of back to sort of the basics of things. No sort of colour lights, just, you know, the black and white, and the whole back of the album cover's the same.
Right, right. It's the feeling of the music. It's very simple. It's real. It's basic. It's rock and roll.
All right, well, listen, I'm going to talk about the album, and hopefully you're going to sort of get over to your set in one piece. So listen, while I rave about this album, over you go. All right, now listen, this album itself, has been doing enormous business. I don't have to go into the whole scribe of it because I think that you've heard my Sharona. It is heading for #1 in this country, no doubt at all. And within the album, as I said before, there are some great tracks. There's also a track called Lucinda, and you should have a listen to this. We've actually got this on tape. We've been working overtime today, boys. Stop it. And let's have a look at Lucinda. Great track.
Jolly good. Jolly good.
It's a great track, and as I say, like, there's many great tracks on this particular album. Heartbeat, which is the old Buddy Holly song, is sensational. It goes over so well on stage. I'm talking about the Knack being on stage. Tonight, in Sydney, they're going to perform at the Hordern Pavilion, so you must not miss out on that. Tuesday night at the Manly Flicks in Sydney. On the 15th, Wednesday, the Stage Door Tavern in Sydney. The Thursday, the Ambassador Club, Newcastle. Newcastle, how about that? And Friday, back in Melbourne for the final performance at the Bombay. So if you've got a chance to go and see the Knack, then I suggest you sort of buzz along because they're a group really worth seeing. And last night, as I say, we just went off our minds. Meanwhile, back in the studios, live on stage for the first time in Australia, we've got the Knack with the #1 single in America, with the #1 album in America, heading for #1 here with this great track called My Sharona. Here we go, the Knack.